everyone, it's JP here from Trails and Details, and today I'm driving a third generation Toyota MR2, more specifically my Toyota MR2, and I just want to talk a little bit about this car, show you some exterior footage in this video, and yeah, that's going to be the video. I'm going to try and explain to you guys how it drives, etc, etc. So let's talk about the MR2. First showed up in the 80s, it was very lightweight, engine in the middle, small and agile sports car. Then came the second iteration, which was a bit bigger, a bit more beefy, but also a lot more powerful. You had the MR2 Turbo, which was of course the cream de la cream when it came to MR2s, and still is considered today by many to be the best MR2 of them all. Then came the third gen, this one, and it was a bit underwhelming for people that were used to the second generation MR2. Second generation MR2 Turbo did 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. This did it in about 7.5. So it was slower. It had less horsepower, and people, generally speaking, thought this car wasn't as pretty or even uglier than the older MR2. So yeah, it wasn't off to a great start, and all things considered, it wasn't as successful as the second generation MR2. So now, when you tell people, oh, I got an MR2, people often think, oh, you got a first or second generation, right? No, I got a third one. Oh, okay. Well, you know, whatever. And I will say this about the third generation MR2. You will probably not like it right up until the moment that you drive it yourself. Trust me, it is so fun to drive, because unlike the second generation MR2, this was kind of a throwback to the first generation MR2, you know, light, nimble, agile, maybe not a lot of horsepower, but just very fun to drive. You know, you got a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder with about 143 horsepower. The car is very light, you got a stick shift, it's still mid-engine, so it's just heaps of fun to throw around the corner, which is exactly why I'm always looking for some sort of an excuse to drive this car, which aren't many, because unfortunately, unlike competitors like the Mazda MX-5 or the Mazda Miata if you live in the States, this barely has any storage space, and I'll show a few clips right now. This is all the storage space you get, which is very, very limited, again, because it's a mid-engine car. So if you want the true mid-engine kind of feel, you can go for this, but you're sacrificing a lot of practicality, I can tell you that much. Oh, tunnel. I hope you guys can hear this. Anyway, where was I? Sorry, I got distracted by the tunnel. That's one of the downsides, well, downsides of driving this car. Every time there's a tunnel, downshift and go. So anyway, as I was saying, this is a really, really fun car to drive, you know. It's that very simple formula, you know, you got an engine, you got a stick shift, you got a steering wheel, not many kind of electronics and everything to hold your hand and guide you along the way. You really feel like you're in control, so to say. Now, is all the hate for this car deserved? Well, a good chunk of it, no. Like I said, most people hate this car because they're just obsessed with spreadsheets. They've never driven an MR2, a second generation or a third generation. They just look at the 0 to 60, oh my god, this one's garbage, boom, that's it. Or they think they look at the car and think, ah, it's not pretty, which, by the way, that's fine. But again, I would like to stress that some of that hate, or, you know, the way it's so underrated, some of that is really not deserved. It is a great, fun little car. But some of the hate or critique is justified. And I want to talk about the negatives of this car. I've mentioned already that it's hopelessly impractical. If you're looking for a 2-seater convertible that has a decent amount of luggage space, go for a Miata. The second problem is the engine in this car. Now, the engine in this car is the same that came in the, I forgot which generation, the last generation Celica, which is called like that, which had a fire-breathing 1.8 4-cylinder, 16 valves, do-overhead cam, blah, 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 143 horsepower. So spec-wise, this is very, very impressive. Unfortunately, it's not one of the better Toyota engines, so to say, because while it produces a lot of horsepower and it's fast, it likes to rev. Unfortunately, the piston rings are very weak, which means these cars are notorious for burning a ton of oil, even after 60, 70,000 miles even. It can be really, really bad. So these cars are yeah, again, and if it starts burning oil and more oil and more oil, it's just gonna be awful. You're gonna feel loss of power, and it's just gonna be, you're not gonna have a good time, basically. Another thing that really plagued these cars, which really plagued the early third gen MR2s, is the fact that Toyota had to make an ultra low emissions vehicle back in the day. And an ultra low emissions vehicle back in the day, they decided, you know what, let's make it the MR2, which kind of makes sense because it's a light sports car, it's got a small engine, so, you know, it already doesn't produce a lot of emissions, so to say, but they didn't quite match that goal. So what did they do? They decided, oh, we're just going to add an extra catalytic converter. And they added this extra catalytic converter in the exhaust manifold. And the problem with that catalytic converter is that after X amount of miles, it can actually start to break off and disintegrate, and that can actually end up inside the engine. You know, those parts in your engine, really, really bad time, you're gonna probably have to replace the engine. It's that bad. I've seen many people who own these engines, who own these MR2, that either decided to knock out these pre-cats, that I decided to swap the engine because it was ruined by, you know, a disintegrating pre-cat, a whole bunch of nasty stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, again, this really wasn't one of the better cars when it came to reliability compared to, you know, the general standard of Toyota, so to say. But luckily, the pre-cat thing is a pretty easy fix. You can knock them out, or you can just replace the exhaust manifold with an aftermarket one, and then you're done. Then you're just pretty much, the only worry is the engine or the oil consumption. And yeah, if you just keep that on point, you can do that. Now, there are a lot of people, actually, or maybe not a lot, but a decent amount of people that decide to swap out this one for the 2ZZ Toyota engine, which had almost 200 horsepower. That's really the engine that should have come with this car. It came in some of the Lotus cars, and it's a shame they didn't use it. So some people do that swap. It's very popular. If you type in third generation MR2 2ZZ swap, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of posts, and a whole bunch of information. So right now, these prices, well, it really depends where you live. In the Netherlands, where I live, these are pretty expensive. A good condition one runs between 8,000 to 10,000 euros. And then you'll have a one that's in nice shape, probably with either the pre-cat removed or still in good condition, and with relatively low mileage, like 60 or 70,000. So that's perfectly doable. In the States, I know it's a bit cheaper. UK, I think it's kind of the same. You guys might have to correct me on that, I'm not sure. But yeah, they're not cheap. And over the last couple of years, they really went up in price. They really skyrocketed, as have many, many Japanese cars. You name them, again, at least here in Europe and in the Netherlands, you name them, they've skyrocketed. Nissan Skyline, Toyota Supra, Mitsubishi Eclipse, Toyota MR2, all these have skyrocketed, including this one. However, I think we're kind of reaching the ceiling when it comes to these prices, because these will never be the MR2 turbos from the second generation. These will never be like a Lotus Elise with that 2ZZ engine or something like that. It's just not gonna happen. But they are still heaps of fun, incredibly fun to drive, and just absolutely, just in terms of miles per gallon, this is probably one of the best cars you can buy. And apart from those downsides, it's still a really, really good car. I've had this for about 2 years now. I've put about 8,000 miles on this, and I've had no problems whatsoever. Just regular maintenance, gas, and that's it. You just go. Let's go one more time. I'm telling you, smiles per gallon, man. Smiles per gallon. So anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk just a little bit more about the driving. It's really nice to have this kind of naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, so when you step on the gas, it just goes boom right there. There's no turbo lag or anything like that. It's, again, super responsive, and you can just, you know, throw this around in corners and it will just go. Oh, that'll never get old. And it's fun, man. It's fun to drive in such an old school car, you know. All these cars these days are either electric vehicles, they come with these like semi-automatic or double clutch gearbox with the flappy paddles. This is just old school. You know, 3 pedals, you got a stick. It's just awesome, man. It really is. So that's kind of enough about the MR2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a little bit different than the Camry, but then again, this is more of a driver's car, so I wanted to approach this a little bit differently. So there you go, guys. That's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for checking out this video about the 3rd generation MR2. If there's anything to take away from this, is that the MR2 is underrated, overhated. Some of the hate is, you know, justified, but at the end of the day, it's kind of overshadowed by its bigger, older brother, the 2nd generation MR2, but it doesn't mean that this is a bad car. It's a really nice car. Sure, it has some faults. One of them is the pre-cab, which is admittedly pretty easy to fix. Other than that, really fun car to drive. And yeah, if you're thinking about buying one, I mean, I have one myself. I can fully recommend it to you. You know, again, they're starting to get a bit more expensive, so if you can find a good deal, definitely do it. I mean, before this, I had a big single turbo Nissan Skyline R33. I had a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Very fun cars, very nice cars, but this is something completely different. Again, it's agile, it's small, it's nimble, it's a 2-seater. Mid-engine is just, oh man, it's just heaps of fun. Anyway, I'll stop talking because I know I'm sounding a bit like a broken record. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time.